going to kick it off. My name is Patrick Schultz. I'm an account executive at TTx. We thank you, all attendees, for joining us today for another edition of the 8x8 and TTx webinar series. We've been doing a couple of these throughout the year. They were great during COVID, and we're continuing with them because we've seen some good results. In introducing folks to TTx and 8x8, both great companies, we are proud to partner with them on the cloud voice side of things. So I'll give you a little brief intro to TTx, and then I'll hand things over to Dan and Brian to run through 8x8 and what we're talking about today. So TTx, we are a 40-year company. We actually are celebrating 41st year here. We were started as a telephony company back in 1980. And as technologies have changed, so have we. We have adopted new technologies. We are no longer just a telephony company. We are an MSP. We are seeing a 50% breakdown of those two things in our portfolio of customers today. 50% are relying on us for outsourced IT support, and the other 50 are relying on us for voice. So that too is a breakdown, a split. We have a large customer base of premise customers. However, we are seeing a huge migration to the cloud, as is with most things, but voice especially with COVID. COVID brought forth, I think they're saying, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but 5 years of advancement in about 5 months. And it's changed the way people communicate and the way people utilize their technology, especially with mobile work. So that being said, TTx has proudly, brought on a lot of new products over the years, but probably one of the most proud we are is of our partnership with 8x8. Being able to rely on a manufacturer of an enterprise solution to deliver that solution so proficiently and effectively to businesses of all sizes is something that we're very happy with. We're putting our reputation on the line when we put in an 8x8 product, and we know that we're going to get the right stuff done. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Dan and Brian. Again, we're here today to talk about 8x8, but the voice solution specifically that will back and kind of run behind Teams. A lot of you may be Teams users or interested in using Teams, but are unsure as to how to incorporate a voice solution with that. So Brian, Dan, thanks for being here with us today. We look forward to hearing what you have to say.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting us. I'll give you guys just a few bullets on 8x8. We were founded in 1987. We have about 1,800 employees worldwide. Last year, we did about $530 million in revenues, and we're one of the largest providers in the world when it comes to something called UCaaS, Unified Communications as a Service. And what that simply means is we put a bunch of communication functions in one place, be it instant messaging, fax, telephone, telephones, as well as video meetings and things like that, your contact center or call center. We put that all in one user interface, whether it's a desktop app, a mobile app, and you can even use a old-fashioned plastic telephone with it. I'm the regional guy for Ohio, Michigan, and Indiana. I live in Akron, so I suspect I'm neighbors with many of you. One thing about 8x8 is we sell principally through partners, and TTx is the best of the best. We love partnering with TTx. They genuinely care about their customers and do a wonderful job of deploying our services. So Patrick talked about this revolution that's happened over the past year, and we see it as a work from anywhere revolution. People want to work from the office. They want to work from home. They want to work on from when they're on the road. And so we want to be able to give them a set of tools that they can use to communicate no matter where they are, no matter what time of the day. So we've seen enormous growth over the past year, and that growth has continued. And lots of people are asking questions about how they enable their workforce. And one of the big questions that always comes up with us is Microsoft Teams. Do you compete against Microsoft Teams? And the answer is, yeah, we do compete against Microsoft Teams, but we also work with Microsoft Teams. So anyways, I want to talk about what's happened here. There are now over 145 million licenses, and I wanted to ask our expert, Brian Bonebrake, channel sales engineer, and I know you guys will find him very insightful today. Brian, 145 million Teams licenses. How did that happen so fast?
It literally happened overnight. And it was because a lot of clients didn't have choice, really, right? COVID happened, and all of a sudden they were mandated to send employees home or have very, very drastic changes to the work environment that not everybody was able to deploy right away. So again, easiest answer, send all of my employees home. And this Teams app was already on their computer, right? It's like, oh, hey, we can make internal calls. We can continue to be productive internally. Well, what's the next evolution of that? Well, I want to also be able to use it to make external calls. And so when organizations traditionally had a massive due diligence when looking at a communications platform, oftentimes taking 6, 9, 12 months to make a decision on what's going to be a best fit for an organization, this literally happened in weeks and maybe a month at most. And people were pulling the trigger on Teams and moving forward with the application. And it was out of necessity, really, because it was already there and it was already an app a lot of folks were already using, right, for chat and collaboration, even video meetings today. And it was just sort of another little half step to bring in that telephony portion as well.
So talk about Teams, Brian. What is it and what is the licensing structure? What do I get when I get Microsoft Teams?
Yeah, that's always a fun question because I feel like sometimes I have to be an Egyptologist to understand all of the different licensing types from Microsoft, but there is some complexity there, right? We have our E series licenses, which are enterprise licenses. You have your K series, your F series, your G series licenses, all dependent upon industry. And then with those licenses, depending on what level, you may or may not already have what's called a phone system license built into that. But with every one of those licenses, you do already have sort of the free version of Teams, which includes chat, a pared down meeting solution, collaboration, and even one-to-one internal calling is all included in that base Teams. But to take it to the next level and to be able to call external folks or have external folks be able to dial into your Teams meeting, you then need to gain some additional licenses like a phone system license plus a calling plan just for voice portion. And then there's an optional audio conferencing license for that dial-in capabilities into a Teams meeting. So as you can start to see, this gets complex quickly. If you're a Microsoft expert, this might make complete sense. If you are just now wading into those waters, there's a lot to dissect.
So at the beginning of COVID, you sent me home. And you sent me home with a laptop and a cell phone. And my cell phone was for calls, and I had this Teams thing that I could chat, and I could do video meetings, and I could call someone within my own company, but I couldn't call someone outside my company. So the natural evolution then is for the company's leadership to say, hey, people already know how to use Teams. If we're going to go to this UCaaS stuff, why don't we just add the phone system to Teams? And so we've seen a ton of that over the last year. So Brian, talk about the difference between what 8x8 does as our core business and what 8x8 does alongside Teams, because this has to do with competition or co-opetition.
Yeah, co-opetition. It's one of my favorite words, and I don't know how to spell it. There's a lot of like, where do the I and the E go in that word? But the co-opetition is the really best way to put it, because for over 20 years, 8x8's been a unified communications provider. For over a decade, we've been a contact center provider, and we're known as one of the only providers in the space that is recognized on Gartner's Magic Quadrant for both UC and CC. So we've been a platform company for as long as we've been around. And then Teams came up over the last couple of years, and there was just a massive opportunity for us to take everything that we are good at, so our global calling capabilities, our integrations, our analytics, obviously our contact center solution, and our robust enterprise telephony, and to wrap that around Teams with our direct routing service. So when I had mentioned that phone system license from Microsoft that you need, that actually looks for one of two things, actually in order, funny enough. It will first look for a Microsoft Teams calling plan. And if that's not in place, it will look for a direct routing connection. And that's where 8x8 comes in. We can be a direct routing provider to Teams. So we can provide the underlying voice, everything that we are well known for in the industry, from our routing, the robustness of our connection, the quality of our calling, is all being brought from an enterprise telephony perspective. But now you also get to take advantage of our integrations platform, our global reach, our analytics platform. And then if contact center is involved, of which a lot of times we spend a focused amount of effort with our clients to better understand, hey, what are the calling patterns in your team? Because a lot of organizations don't realize they have a contact center or a call center in their environment today, and we can really improve efficiencies there. But now 8x8 can power all of that. And then we even bring a little bit of value add. It's optional, but it's pretty cool. You can get a little 8x8 app right in Microsoft Teams that brings SMS functionality, easily log in or out of call queues if you're a user, retrieve your voicemail settings with full voicemail transcription, and even fax, all from your Teams client. So you never have to leave your Teams client, whether you're an agent or just a standard business user.
So I want to take a step back and invite everybody to ask questions and interrupt anytime they want, because this is really about Stump the Chump and digging in to Brian and finding the value that you want to find for your own company. So we're going to take a moment right now and do a little dueling banjos here. And I'm going to show you guys what the 8x8 app looks like, just a little once over. And then Brian's going to show you what our integration with Teams looks like, so you can compare and contrast the two. Like I said earlier, we are a UCaaS provider, which means we put a bunch of stuff in one place. And Brian and Patrick, are you seeing my desktop, my 8x8 app?
Yeah, we see it.
Yep. So what you're seeing here is, you know, my presence. I'm on Do Not Disturb right now so that no one can get through to me. Here's all the phone calls that I've made recently. Here's the ones I've missed. Here's my visual voicemail. I can actually read what people left for me. Here are all my contacts. These are my favorites. This is all of 8x8, so you can see who's available, who's not. Green means people are available. These are my personal contacts. I can pull in personal contacts either from the G Suite, or I use Outlook. I can also go to instant messaging. You can see that I sent Brian an instant message right before this started. Don't forget, this is a Zoom meeting, not an 8x8 meeting, because he and I are in 8x8 meetings all day long, and I wanted to remind him of that. So very quick way to communicate within the enterprise. And this is also where I would send an SMS text. So if I have somebody outside the organization and I want to send a text to them, I can do it from here. It shows up as an instant message from them and an SMS text for me. We also have rooms. You can see this is the Central Region Channel Manager room. This is everybody that works on my team. We can all post things and communicate together. This is 8x8 meetings. So I can start a video meeting here, which I don't want to do because that'll take the camera away from Zoom and I'll lose connectivity. But you can see all the video meetings I have scheduled. Here's all the faxes that I've received. As you can see, I don't use fax at all. And here's all my call recordings. So all these things are in one place. We put it all right here to make it easy for our clients to use. And there's one-to-one feature parity with our mobile app as well. So all these functional icons that you see down along the left side are on my iPhone or my Android app, so that you can carry your communications package that you need for your office wherever you go. And yes, this also works with a Polycom or Yealink or Cisco phone that's compatible with our network. So you can pair this with an old-fashioned plastic phone, or you can use it independent of that. So that's a quick once over of 8x8. And at this point, what I want to do is I want to stop sharing and I want to kick it back to Brian so he can show you what Teams looks like integrated with 8x8.
Yeah, I will add a couple quick things too about the 8x8 app that I think are really exciting. Since one, we own our entire platform. Two, we can approach it in a very modular fashion. So as you need more or less of those features, we can actually remove that access. So roles-based access control is pretty big. So you saw a ton of icons on the left-hand side, but if you're a fairly straightforward environment that's not using all of that, or maybe you are using different apps for different reasons, then you can actually turn on or off various features and really boil that down to just exactly what you're using. But to keep in the nature here of what we're discussing, I'm going to kick into a quick screen share. I will need to be granted permission, Dan, to do so.
So I need to click on you and then make host. Yes, done.
Perfect. Perfect. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Now, everybody should see a very familiar site. If you have used Teams in the past, this is the native Teams calling experience. Everything that you would see normally in Teams has not been changed, right? We're not interfering with that feature functionality. So everything from your calls, the various teams you might have set up, your chat, are all gonna be there as they normally are. Even when I go into the call-in solution and I make a quick call here, if I actually click on the button, I even get the little bubbly noise.
But we do have a question in the Q&A portion, just making sure we're seeing that and keeping an eye on it.
Yep,
Yeah,
I will pull that up.
Can the 8x8 work program function as a replace for the Mitel Connect desktop application? Yes, as a connection. We don't work with a Mitel telephone system on top of that. We would be competitive to Mitel in that, but we can be a complete replacement for your Mitel platform.
Yep.
I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, and we show the app because obviously we're in a digital experience here today. But do know that if you have a physical phone environment, we're fully integrated into that. That desktop app can act as full call controls for a physical phone. But Dan is right. We're not going to be able to repurpose Mitel phones. You would need to look at a different hard phone solution if you want to continue to use that, of which we fully support the Poly line. We have a huge subset of the Yadlink phones and Cisco phones as well that we can support with the 8x8 service. Appreciate the question. So I'm in an active call here with Microsoft Teams. It even has the bubbly music, the ringtone's not changed. And when you're in that call, all of the standard functions are going to be there, from hold, transfer, warm transfer, even park the call. We're not getting in the way of that. 8x8 is just facilitating the underlying PSTN connection for Teams through our direct routing solution. But what I'll do is I'll actually leave that call, and I'm going to go to an optional portion. But this is pretty cool because this kind of conceptually helps you understand what we're doing when we're wrapping our arms around this. There's a lot of back end stuff that if you want to get really nerdy, we can. But for the most part, for that end user experience, they just want to log in. They want to use Teams and not have to think about it very much. But they also want to take advantage of some of the additional features that 8x8 can bring. So this is an optional download. You go right to the Teams App Store, found in the bottom left-hand corner here. Find the 8x8 app. You're going to log in with your 8x8 credentials. And now, as I'm a user leveraging 8x8's underlying capabilities, and say I'm a user that's in a call queue, well, now I can easily log in or log out of any call queues that I may be a member of. Or I can retrieve my voicemail with full voicemail transcription. I can SMS with media through the Teams app, leveraging my business phone number. And then even fax. If I'm still leveraging fax, I can fax right from this platform as well. So this is a nice little value add application. But if you don't want to leverage that, again, it's option. Flexibility, modularity is everything that 8x8's about. We can help you introduce new technology to your environment, replicate what you're doing today, and slowly ease into what the world of tomorrow can look like when you're looking at it being powered by 8x8. All right, I'm gonna stop my share here. Any questions about that, feel free to drop them in the QA. We're here to answer anything that might come up.
So Brian, talk some about how 8x8 complements Microsoft Teams.
Yeah, I'm actually going to use a graphic for this one because I think it's pretty interesting. So give me a chance here to do a couple clicks.
And one of the great things about what we do with Microsoft Teams is you get to use the Teams endpoints, whether it's a virtual endpoint or a physical endpoint. But the innards of your telephone system are all 8x8. So when you do call queues, you do ring groups, you do automated attendance, whatever it might be, you're doing that in 8x8 and not in Microsoft.
And this graphic, I think, is great because it speaks leagues to kind of what we're trying to do here, right? We've put Teams in the center of the experience. You saw it, native Teams experience, optional 8x8 app. But we're powering the enterprise telephony solution. So all of the routing capabilities, so ring groups, call queues, auto attendance, your even barge monitor whisper capabilities, 8x8 is powering all of that. I can actually show another graphic here that will kind of conceptualize how this is set up, right? We have Teams user using the Teams client of choice, but then when any of that external incoming or outgoing calls are all going to route through 8x8. So you're building everything in the 8x8 environment. So you're getting the robustness of our platform, as well as extending the capabilities of that platform, even including sort of a built-in disaster recovery solution. If there's ever an issue with the Teams environment or Microsoft, there's some really creative ways to route the calls so that you can continue to be productive, because 8x8 is sort of the brains, if you will, the center of that solution. But going back to this graphic here, this is sort of what we're talking about in the space. Sure, you could go out and get a Teams calling plan. I'm going to use my laser pointer because I like this. You can get a Teams calling plan. You can go leverage a low-cost direct routing provider that might provide you with the enterprise telephony features or reach that you might need. And that's fair. I'll be completely honest with you. This wedge here is a very competitive wedge, if that's all that's of interest to you. But as soon as you start taking a look at your environment and realize, oh, hey, maybe we need to integrate with our CRM, or we have some sort of inbound channel into our organization, be it a customer support team, a sales team, or even an internal IT support team, and they need to integrate with various systems. Okay, now we're seeing some value here. I'm using one provider for integrations and my telephony needs. Well, maybe I have some branch sites that are global in nature, and I'm struggling to find a provider that can reach those. Well, 8x8 can provide unlimited calling up to 47 countries, but we have experience deploying in over 120. So we can help you get the right solution in place dependent on where your locations are. But then now we added another value add with our analytics platform. Not only do we have in-depth, robust analytics in the UC space, but in the contact center space, we go all the way up to speech analytics with sentiment, quality management capabilities, as well as the traditional dashboarding, reporting, even post-call survey information, customer experience information, all found in our solution. So now you're able to get more in-depth information because, again, remember, everything's routed through that 8x8 cloud. So we're gathering all of that information as it ebbs and flows into your organization. And then if there's contact center involved, 8x8 is actually a certified contact center provider to Microsoft Teams. We're actually the first one of those listed on the Gartner Magic Quadrant for contact center to get that accreditation. So being in that place, if you have any inbound channels, you can know that 8x8 is going to be well positioned within your organization to work flawlessly with all of your apps. So this is really where our value comes in, is if you start to touch on a couple different of these wedges. Like I said, if it's just enterprise telephony that's important to your organization, you probably have a lot of options, and TTx can help you work through those. But when you start to look at multiple facets here, it starts to become a clearer and clearer image of that single provider solution that you can go with.
Brian, thank you for that. That was a great explanation. Patrick, I'm going to kick it back to you to wrap things up. We said we were going to go a half hour. We're at the bottom of the hour right now. I will tell you this, that Brian and I are reserved for the next half hour. So if folks want to stick around and ask more questions or dig into analytics or reporting or something like that, we'd be happy to hang out with you guys for a while. But we know that everyone's time is valuable, and we want to be very respectful of that.
We certainly appreciate your time sharing this with us. I know it's super valuable. Again, as we speak to mobility, as we speak to the mobile workforce, it's the, as Dan said, work from anywhere. So we can take this solution and apply that to our business. These guys are super smart. We rely on them every day to answer questions and support us. So if you have any questions, shoot them in. We'll, happily answer them. If not, then I'm going to be following up on some action items, reaching back out, making sure that you have everything answered, that you have the information you need to potentially walk down this path with TTx and 8x8. We are looking forward to having the opportunity to have these discussions with you and understand your business needs and how you need to communicate with internal, external, things like that.